We want our equity back. I want my equity back. Share if you care.
To WC or not to WC? That is the question, you see.
Nigel.cecil, calling things out as you like it, especially for his fair-minded friends.
Hello, Chuckabutties. Welcome. Thank you for joining me, moi, Nigel.cecil, with the headline statement for this video. To WC or not to WC? That is the question. You see, yes, and we know, don't we, Hillary? We see, and we know that you see, because we understand why you have sent in the information that has brought about that headline statement. It's because during the week, Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, broached the subject of gender-neutral and gender-inclusive toilets. And we thought if we get into this one, maybe you, well, we know some would like to see moi flush down the toilet pan. Well, I've got some news for you, because you were thinking that we could incorporate this in the general statement about equity. Equity, the trade union for professional actors, variety entertainers and other creatives across the United Kingdom. Because equity, apparently, at their headquarters, Guild House in London, have gender-neutral, gender-inclusive toilets. And you, my viewers, said, Nigel, will you make the statement in the context of we want our equity back, I want my equity back, that we want our single-sex toilets back? And so, can you campaign for us, Nigel? And the answer is, no, not really, because we've looked at it, and the whole subject matter is really quite confusing. In fact, we've drifted on to something else, haven't we, Hillary? We're sort of thinking, is there a conspiracy theory in the background? See, on the face of it, Equity Guild House can do what they want. It's a private building, so if the staff there, a majority of the staff has said, listen, we want gender-neutral toilets, then why not? Why not indeed? But, and here is the question, how does that spread out to everything else? Because some might say, well, if they've got gender-neutral toilets at Equity HQ, why aren't they campaigning for gender-neutral toilets everywhere? Because if they do, we've got some comments as Equity members we'd like to input into that. Now, let me not set aside that there are genuine, credible, valid concerns as to why the minority who are really impacted on single-sex toilets should have their views considered. They should be looked after. But we've moved on from that, because we've sort of said, you know, if you think about it, if an organisation is a campaigning organisation, then what do? That's any organisation, any group, not just Equity. You latch on to a minority issue, because minorities, well, they need the campaigning to bring their message, their concerns forward. So invariably, whilst some minorities might think they are a minority, when they start campaigning, they realise they are not, because there's a groundswell of opinions supporting them, whereas others, well, the minority remains the minority. And this is the problem with organisations like Equity. If they're always campaigning, is it always for minority issues? So the majority become forgotten. But anyway, let's get back to this one. So when we talk about gender-neutral toilets, where did it start? My conspiracy theory. Where did it start, Hillary? Do you know where the idea of gender-neutral toilets started? Well, China in 2013, not all that long ago. So what was the objective in China 2013? And then of course it spread, because they latch on to a minority and the minority start campaigning. But was the original campaign in China to promote gender-neutral toilets, or was there a hidden agenda? One of our older viewers said, Nigel, Do you recall, meanwhile, I'm not old enough, that years ago there were outside toilets for the majority of people in the United Kingdom, back-to-back terraced houses? Outside toilets. Indeed, some areas had a communal toilet where everyone went. And then eventually someone said, well, we'd like a toilet inside because it's cold, it's freezing. No. That'll spread diseases. You can't have a toilet inside. Who was saying that? Those that already had the money to have inside toilets, because they probably realised if all these workers wanted inside toilets, well, they'd need bigger houses. And bigger houses means, well, less space for the others. But what happens nowadays? Yes, because eventually everyone said, well, we're having inside toilets. But now those that are rich, well, they've got more than one toilet, haven't they? They have a cloakroom with a toilet downstairs and a personal one upstairs. And those who are even more rich, well, our house has an ensuite bathroom. And not only that, we've got him and hers cloakrooms, dressing rooms with their own ensuite hygiene facilities. And so once again, you say, what is it all about? Is it driving the minority to look after their interests, or is it driving an agenda to control those at the bottom, the grassroots? You have to have a communal toilet because then you will have smaller houses. We can go back to putting you into little boxes. So are those all the people driving the agenda really got the real interests of the minority at heart, or are they trying to drive something completely different? So that's what I'm going to leave with you. So when it comes to saying, we want our equity back, we want our gender neutral toilets back, or we want single sex toilets back, whichever, well, it really is up to you. But I would ask you to analyse everything, because you see, another person has been in touch and said, Nigel, we don't like queuing, you see. If you have gender neutral, well, it shares out the waiting time. Because traditionally, you see, female toilets, well, there was always a longer queue than those for the male toilets. Put them all together. It equalises the waiting time, which is fair, isn't it? But one of our female viewers said, Nigel, we find it uncomfortable queuing in the gender-neutral toilet queue at the supermarket because we're having to queue for a very personal matter with a man standing next to me. Now, you may say there's nothing wrong with that, but from a personal basis, well, we're not very happy. And then, of course, someone said on the other side, well, you have gender-neutral toilets at home, don't you? Do you? It's not as though you all get used to each other, don't you? It's not as though somebody knocks at your door and says, I'm just coming to use your toilet. But we've addressed that because now the posher people have more than one toilet. So I'm going to leave this one with you. Let me know what you think. To WC or not to WC? That is the question. You see, we want our equity back. I want my equity back. We want our... Well, over to you. And let's see what you think, you see. Well, Hillary. Oh, Hillary's saying I ought to finish with a jokeroonie. Have you got the jokeroonie music then, Hillary? Here we go. Are you ready for this one? Joker-Rudy time, and Hillary's certainly in a funny mood. Hillary, are you going to get me flushed down the toilet pan? What have you got here? We'll open this one out. Oh, are we allowed to mention this name? A viewer called Jeff Martin has sent this little ditty in for us because they raised the topic, did they, about gender-neutral toilets? Yes. In the 14th century, what would you call a gender-inclusive toilet that's underneath the stairs in Windsor Castle? Go on then. What would you call a gender-inclusive, gender-neutral toilet that's underneath the stairs in Windsor Castle back in the 14th century? Yes, a bucket. A bucket. You can't get more inclusive than that, can you, Hillary? Well, keep in touch. Thank you very much. And of course, we'll see. You see. Bye for now.